Ooh, caught me off guard. Caught me off guard. I'm there putting a message in the Facebook feed like, hey, welcome everybody. Good afternoon to all. Let us know what you're thinking and how you're doing and where you're watching from this beautiful Juneteenth. Ooh, Juneteenth, huh? June 19, 2024, EP10, Season 5. Traci.
Juneteenth, huh?
Juneteenth, yeah.
That came out.
Juneteenth came out, and you know about Juneteenth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Juneteenth came out. It's exciting. This is the day that finally, 2 years after Abraham Lincoln had said, freed slaves, hadn't reached Texas. 2 years later, it was finally announced there that hey, these guys are free. So it's and not until 2021, I believe, it became this holiday that we have today. But hey, happy Juneteenth, dear.
Happy Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth. I love that we celebrate these things. Well, and I mean, it's amazing. I think sometimes the shock and awe that comes with, when we look at facts in history. Like somebody was just sharing recently, like when I was born, women still could not get credit cards in their own name. They had to be co-signed by a man. And, so I mean, it's like this idea of like you can do all of these adult things, or you can bring children into the world and you can be responsible for paying bills and taxes and all this, but you can't get a credit card in your own name. You can't go buy a car in your own name. You can't, and that was, I mean, that was when I was born and it still was the case. And so it's kind of amazing to think like how far we've come in technology and other things, but that wasn't that long ago. At least I'd like to believe.
Yeah.
I'm not that old. I'm going to tell myself that.
Hey, you're not.
Right? Yeah.
You say that. You say that, and I didn't investigate this, but I saw an ad, a political ad, because it's about to start again. Saw a political ad about one of the candidates running, I think, governor level, I believe. And the lady said, repeat it. No, in fact, the guy good. So I investigated it because I didn't need to, rather, because he was saying it, at a press conference or so. And here's what he said. And even to repeat it is, ugh, ugh. It was about abortion. And he said, don't go on abort. Even who told you to lift up your skirt? And I was like, who told her to lift up her skirt? Is it let's not talk about the lifting of the skirt. Is it every time a woman gets pregnant? Is it a skirt lifting up? Is it is it is it
Is it
isn't
her
she
choice?
yeah, is it her choice that she said, I'm flaunting it, and after that that triggered I don't know, it's around the world, but I know Liberia, I know Africa. They when a little a younger person is living in the house and you have older men around, the in certain homes, the mother, if something happens, the mother, the female, the older female in the house will be, don't wear those short things. Stop enticing them. Don't do that. You're making them. I'm like, no, control yourself, fool. Control yourself. It's not. Is it you guarding your spirit, guarding your heart? Because Psalm 32:8 I think says, a man who doesn't protect his spirit, it's like a city without a wall. Everything can come in and everything can go out. So can't you guard yourself and see these little children and protect and say, that's my I'm gonna go to a grown person. It's not the lady's fault if she's wearing something, yeah, sometimes it's enticing and all, but yet and still you control yourself. She's not saying come and have sex with me. And so when I hear those thought processes, when he said, keep your skirt down, you wouldn't get pregnant, I was like, gosh, this guy, he is somebody who, someone hears that thing, they could say, you know what, I'm going to shoot you. I'm not saying that.
Yeah. We're not saying we condone that behavior, but what you're saying is so true. So it was written so directly and so succinctly in a book that I read a while ago. It's by a psychologist who works with men, specifically a male psychologist who works with men. And he said men need to be in charge of their charge. And I thought that was like so great, because it's like, be in control of your power. Don't power over people, be empowered, right? Be in charge of your own power. Could you overpower that person and take advantage of that? Yeah, I'm sure you could. You're bigger, you're stronger, they trust you, whatever. But like, be in charge of your charge, and I just thought that I mean, spoke volumes, to so many things. And it works both ways, not just men, right? Women
Correct.
too. Like, be in charge of your power. Don't give your power away. Don't use your power, because women and men both have learned very inappropriate, manipulative ways to get their needs met.
Correct.
And a
Correct.
lot of it is because we have not been empowered. We
Mm.
have been powered over. We've had rules empowering over. I mean, I'm not saying don't have rules, right? Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying we've had regulations, rules, structures, systems that have told us right and wrong, and that have been powering over our free will in many cases,
Mm.
right? And I don't mean cultural structures that need to be in place to keep, what I mean is control over,
Mm.
in ways that don't allow people to learn how to be in charge of their own power. I mean, I was just having this conversation a couple of days ago about generations, which is we've talked about that here too, a constant conversation. And where people complain about, generation Gen Z especially, and how these
Mm.
kids, they don't know how to do anything. I mean, the one of the new statistics that I heard recently, 30% of Gen Zs bring either a parent or a coach to a job interview, which just blows my mind as a Gen Xer. Like, I'm just like, and they also said, that the specialty, the expert who I was getting this information from, she
Mhm.
shared, she says, really, there's a split in Zs because there's a split in Xers, because Xers are the parents. Most parents of Zs are Xers, right? Gen
Mhm.
X. And there's a split in the Gen X. Some are raising their Z children the way they were raised,
Mm.
right? Figure it out, go do it yourself. Like, I'm not going to be here to do it for you.
Mm.
Hey, we got Mr. Walker checking in.
Hey, Renee, what's going on, man?
Nice stuff. I
Good to
love it.
see you. Good to see
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I believe in the fruit of the spirit for sure. And then you have those who became the helicopter parents. They're like, I wasn't given that support I needed, so I'm going to give all the support to my kid.
Correct.
And so we have what we have,
Mm.
and we could sit here and say whether it's right or wrong, but I always like to say it is what it is, right? If we
Mhm.
have a generation of kids that want to be supported more, they want to be coached, but not to the detriment of them learning how to be in the world,
Mm.
to stand on their own 2 feet, right? And to be able to, to add, you know value, not only to their own lives, by being valuable, but to systems,
Mm.
and the world at large. They need to learn how to navigate the world,
Mhm.
without constant assistance.
Yes.
um so it's that balancing act. How much is support, how much is it rescue?
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. You. So when you say helicopter parents, we got something in the house where we go woo woo. I go woo 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 woo.
I like
We where I'm telling Verlin, I think we're getting in a position of helicopters, hovering, right. So Normandy says by default we're a product of our upbringing and culture. Most often we pass that along to our kids, good or bad.
so
True,
true.
true. And
It is
we
what it is. It's always been the case.
we must, until we can introspect and see how we were brought up, the wrongs and let me not say wrongs because it's how your mom and your dad believed or how you should be brought up. So it's their right. But in this time where we find ourselves, is it, am I still going to be cooking with Crisco when they have created something, a new, a better butter that's more healthy, right? Am I still going to be drinking X when Y has been created that's good for my health? So when we can introspect and say, and really, really sit down, meditate on it and say, hey, look, I wonder if this is, what are the things that I'm doing today that are carry overs from my past that isn't good for this current time, right? I have so Jazz went to an internship, flew to Michigan, Twin Lakes, way up in the forest for a musical camp. So she's going to school to be an oncologist, pediatric oncologist, and she finds this. It's a music camp where she's going to be shadowing doctors and nurses for 2 months. So it fits in because Jazz sings and she wants to do that. So a perfect fit.
Wow.
We're planning it. Mom says, I want to go and see this place because it's in the bush, Jazz. It's in the forest. It's in the national forest. Uh, Jazz says, so mom looks at me and says, what do you think? I'm like, mm. So I'm mute. I look at Jazz and Jazz says, Mom, I am an employee. I am an employee. What does it look like? And now this is a 18, 19-year-old, just what we're discussing right now, right? She says, I'm an employee. I don't need my mom coming to my job with me. How is that gonna look? So when you said that, I said I thought about this. It's and you clarified not everybody falls in that category, right? In this particular generation.
Mhm.
In your in that the stats that you saw, what what did they break it down by gender? Because what I've seen, yeah, normally says knowledge is power and time is a blessing and a curse. Oh yes, yes. It truly unfolds, right? What have you seen? And Normani, if you can chime in here, uh, have you seen the gender, which gender within this generation, if it's 50-50, or is it favoring one gender over the other?
No, she didn't talk about. So this was at a generation workshop. This is the
Okay.
second time I've gone to this particular individual's. Amazing, Dr. Catherine Jeffrey. She is. if anybody's ever organization is ever looking for a speaker, she's out of Chicago, but she is absolutely brilliant. She works with organizations on the gender gaps, right, and how to work, and create processes that help support the various genders,
Hmm.
to help create, to help, really solve issues that are, current organizations are having because of these various differences in how we look at and value our
Gotcha.
time in the workforce. And she didn't speak to the gender thing, but I can say, when I asked my daughter, Madison, like, I was just sharing that stat with her,
Mm-hmm.
and she just looked at me like, Mom, I would kill you if you came to me with me to like a job interview. Like, what the heck? Like, no, what would that look? Your same thing as Jazz. What would that look like? What would that say about me? Like, I can't. I need to have my mom holding my hand. Like, what the heck?
Ooh.
So I looked at my husband. I said, "Well, we know which parent we are. We raised
Yes.
one of the ones that wants to do it herself, you know."
Yes.
But I think
Yes.
that so I don't know if it's a gender thing, because I know that I have always been that parent. Like, you, at some point in time, yes, I want to support you, but I don't want to baby you. I don't want to coddle you. I don't want to, rescue you, because then you're going to grow up thinking you have to be rescued by somebody.
Yes.
You're not going to figure it out. She's better at me with technology. She is far better than I am at figuring things out. I mean, she's a tech kid, right? But like, she'll go and just figure it out. Like,
Mm,
that's just her go-to. It's a very logical mind, very black and white thinker,
gotcha.
and feels very capable. And I always wanted her to feel that way, and
Mm,
Jeff too. So I think it really depends, so you said it, and I'll just use different language for it. And it's true of anything in life. We either can live intentionally or reactionally,
mhm, mhm.
accidentally, in other words. Like, we're kind of stumbling through life, just, kind of reacting to everything. And that's I think, either way. You have the reaction of the parent saying, I either had the support or I didn't. If I had too much support, then I'm not going to give my kid, because that felt stifling. I'm going to give, my kids more freedom.
Mm,
Or I had, not enough support, so I'm going to give my kids more support because I wanted that. I mean, that's reactionary parenting. That's, the reaction I have to my upbringing is what causes my parenting to be a certain way. Whereas what you said is insightful, intentional parenting is to say, what's best for my child, first of all, non dependent
mm,
upon my own experience growing up. Let me look at my child as a separate entity. Let's look at this time as a separate time. I am not
ooh,
my parent. This is not me. We are different individuals at a different time with different needs. And let me intentionally and with awareness parent forward
mm,
from that
mm,
that space. Like, that's what I was hearing you say, and I 100% agree. I think
mm,
it's not type and all that. It's reactionary or thoughtful. It's
mm.
reactionary or, intentional and aware.
Intentional. Yeah.
And it's why you do what you do. It's why I do what I do, is to try to help people bring more intentionality to what we best, what our specialty is,
Correct.
people, for you, it's how people run their business, right?
Mhm.
How intentional are you about
Correct.
these processes and procedures you have in place? Are you aware that you don't have certain processes and procedures in place,
Mhm.
maybe thinking that you do? It's like, oh, I have a process. Okay, explain it to me. Okay, maybe I
Yeah.
don't.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So I do believe that the more intentionally, the gentleman I was telling you before we came on the air, and I met with this morning, it's really coming into a very intentional space,
Hmm.
in his career. He's done incredible things at the global level, with a lot of nonprofit organizations, and really just wanting to spend more time understanding himself, and
Wow.
what, not only himself and kind of how he does what he does, but where there's value to that. Like, where can we can only intentionally insert ourselves where we're most valuable,
Mm.
when we know our value, right? When we know what that value is. And some things that we talked about, he had come to, because he was paying attention and putting together the dots of, oh, people, there's a lot of people that tend to tell me I bring this to the table. Let me take that to heart. Let me think about that, more. Maybe that's a gift. Like, I hadn't really thought about that. Like, I didn't really know that I was doing that. But then people keep saying this to me, so that's a clue. That's data. That's, and then how can I intentionally draw that forward? And he's like, now I can look for organizations that have certain things that have a value to me, whether they have the same mission or
Yeah.
values or whatever, but they also have a particular need that I meet, right? I have these natural traits and talents that they're missing. And so I can come in and I can actually speak to that. And I can do it in a respectful way that doesn't look like I'm bragging or whatever, the way he explained it to me, because he put it, I guess, he's going for this particular position that he came across. And he put it in such a lovely way, kind of
Mm,
like what we would put on a resume. Like, I
mm,
have skills A, B, C, D, E. I can type in a certain number of words per minute. I mean, that's so antiquated, but it's this whole idea of knowing our skills, even the soft skills or the human skills
mm,
that are innate, to be able to
mm.
speak to those as well. Because think about if you're reading resumes or you're reading cover letters and somebody knows that and can speak to that, how that's going to shine above and
Yeah.
beyond people who can't speak to their innate gifts.
Yeah.
And more specifically, I realized that what I have is what you need.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
Yes. As got a couple points there, but I think based on what we were discussing earlier, Normandy says the gender gap is a challenge. It's still a challenge. There are still societal norms that some will not change, almost like a caste system. For example, some think a woman's place is a woman's place depending on where you live and what your beliefs are. It is changing as the world becomes more connected, especially with the internet. We have made strides, but the process is slow and overall. Yeah, and that's something we started with when Traci was talking during her in her lifetime. Women had to wait for credit cards, wait for their husbands to give credit cards and buy. Can you imagine how stifling? I would think my wife would have been such a rebel in that time because she's against, she's an advocate when it comes to these things, and she's just I can't be held down for my own good, right? We have a good point, Normani. As you were talking, you said, know your skills, and that there are clues that are left on the road. I call it breadcrumbs, right? If you can look at the breadcrumbs where people keep saying, "Wow, you're so insightful," or they keep coming to you for advice, and then you ask, "Why do you come to me?" "Oh man, because you're kind of wise," and it's your peers, not and even older people coming to you and talking. I remember when you said that. I did a presentation once about defining who you are, right? Your purpose. And one of the exercises in there is going to your parents, going to your siblings, and saying, "Tell me, what is it that I'm great at, I'm best at, that of all the people in the world, you would think of me first." Because your mom and dad will remember how you influenced your schoolmates when, and at graduations or at class events where they will come and observe you with individuals. You're influencing them. They want to go this way, you go that way. Oh, you're an influencer. They're not in the sense of social media.
not the social influencer that we refer to these days. No, that's not what we're talking about.
No, that's not what we're talking about. You're an influencer, right? So all of these breadcrumbs that, again, we come to, if I can say the most used word on this show has been the base word intention. I think we have talked about intentionality, being intentional, so many times that when you can be intentional and look back, this is your operation, this is your life, this is you been, and as you were explaining it, I'm saying to myself, oh my goodness, I can work at a company and be fulfilling my purpose and making money while I'm doing it. That is when I know That's when I know that that exercise will work best with my parents. My siblings will just tear me apart.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Normandy, I know exactly what you're talking about.
You got that
Oh,
right. You got that right. Um, that's a good one. But no, tell
that's
them,
great.
please be true. Please be true to me for just 1 minute, and then thereafter you can roast me. Um,
Yeah.
but but where was I? What was I? Cause I just
You're
that's
talking about intentionality and
so
intentional.
so when we can sit, because it's so, no, you can make money doing this thing, where I always say, oh, go and work for yourself, there's more freedom, etc. It's true. Not everybody wants to run a business. Not everybody's built for that. And it's not a put down. Not everybody wants to work for another person. But here's the thing. What you said, writing your value statement to this company that you've researched and your values are similar, not exact, but similar. The mission, vision, and purpose, their core values, everything aligns with you, and you can express. Is what you said. When you can express it, when you do work in that particular environment, that's what you will call a fulfilling environment, because there's no value mismatch. But when you go and you run behind the Yankee dollar, or behind the yen, or anything, any currency, you're running behind currency to say finance is the biggest thing that runs me. You will soon find, or finance is my number one priority to feed. You will soon find out that mm-mm, this is not. Finance is the least, because soon you will be going in there frowning. Soon your work life balance will deteriorate. And whereas on the flip side, where you're running to work and you're seeing you're impactful based on what you know, what your value is, where that where it matches up, that's a complete game changer in your repertoire. Yeah, Normani, always a great conversation. Thank you, man. Thank
Yeah.
you. We thank you for being here with us today and the other times. Go ahead,
Definitely.
Tracy. You're about to say something.
Yeah, well, and yeah, we so appreciate, everybody who comes on, and especially, when they add to the conversation. I mean, this is what
Correct.
we're here for. And I love what you said about fulfilling. And I always say there's a difference between success and fulfillment. You can be very, very successful and not fulfilled,
Mm, mm,
and you can be very, very fulfilled and not meet all the benchmarks of what we consider success in our cultures, right? And yet I strive to have both. That's thriving to me, is to being successful and fulfilled. So I don't think we need to have one or the other,
drum
right?
beat, drum, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up.
Like,
Woo! Say that again. Say that again.
I think you can have both. I think you can have both, and
Yes.
you can have love and stability. You can have, I mean, you can have passion and be treated well. I mean, I think that's
Mm,
the key piece, is that we're so accustomed to living in a world that tells us if you have one, you can't have the other, that we've come to buy that as a truth, and it's not. And, part of, I ask people oftentimes too, when they're trying to decide whether they want to stay where they are, right? Whether they're in an organization, or, they're an entrepreneur and they want to stay where they are size wise, or what they want to scale, or what they want to sell, or whatever, they're just kind of trying to figure out where they go next,
mm-hmm,
is to really assess that key piece of fulfillment. Like
mm,
where you are now, because where you were when you first started this company, or when you first started with this company,
mm-hmm,
or whatever, is
mm-hmm.
not where you are today. So we
Correct.
can't assess it based on the past. Well, I came to
Mm,
this company because I was looking, well, that was then. This is now. So let's assess
correct.
it for now. What's fulfillment now? And is there alignment? You were talking about, core values, mission, purpose, all these things.
Mm-hmm,
I don't believe our identity is our purpose. I believe our identity is separate from our purpose. I think we have purpose within our identity. Um, but, where are we looking for places and spaces that align with, but we need to know what that is for us. We need to define
mm-hmm,
it for us before we know if there's alignment where we currently are. And that's how we make decisions, not based on, like you said, well, I want to be the top dog, I want to be the biggest company, or I want to have, all the chips.
Mm,
Whatever that idea of success is. If we're chasing the concept of success and we're not chasing fulfillment,
mm,
alignment, value in the moment, in other words, where are we currently? If we're still judging things based on what we were told or what our credentials that we got years ago say we're credentialed for, if we're still, we're not serving our current needs, we're not going to be fulfilled, no matter
mm.
how successful
Yeah.
you become. This is where you see really famous people, wealthy people, rich and famous, as they say, not fulfilled, unhappy, trying to find their happiness in things and people instead of experiencing it from within, because there's a
Mm,
lack of alignment. They're not even considering, is this tour that I'm expected to go on in alignment with where I am right now in my life? Do I want to go on
mm,
tour? I don't care
mm.
if I, am being told by my agent that I need to get back out there and all that. Is that what I'm feeling I want for my life right now? Is that aligned with where I am now? Not what the world expects of me, or not even what I have in the past expected for myself, but where I am
Mm,
right now. I love going through that process with clients because there's some really amazing things that we will discover when we
mm,
start asking those questions.
mm. Just what you painted just now. We watched One Love, Bob Marley's the latest.
Yes.
Did you watch that?
Yeah, we went actually as a family. Madison, her boyfriend, Jeff, and I all went to that when it first came out. Great
Yeah.
movie.
So exactly, you remember a couple scenes when we were making the cover for the Exodus album.
Mm-hmm,
One.
mm-hmm,
The second one was, I believe, he wanted to go to Africa, and they said Africa didn't have the infrastructure. He said, "We'll build it."
mm-hmm.
This is somebody who knew who he was. I want to have this peace concert. I'm going to have this peace concert. So all peppered in there, it's explaining what we're saying here today. Bob Marley was so intentional on who he was in this world, and that you can see, thank you, Lord. When you know who you are, you can live fully. Another person who comes to mind, but we've just seen peppered. Maybe when we see a full video, a movie of him, I would say Kobe Bryant. People
Mm,
who know the full purpose and they come, what they do is they're so concentrated that everything is like that concentrated orange juice or whatever, that's just, or let's do cranberry, the concentrated cranberry. Then you're like, no, I need to put some water in this thing. But everything they do is so concentrated. And this is where we say intentionality again. They're so intentional on, I want to do this. You will create it, because Bob Marley didn't have the money per se to say, I want to go
yeah,
to
the
Africa or this.
influence.
He had the influence, and he said, create the infrastructure, create the infrastructure, and we go to Africa. And he did go to Africa. So when you were saying that, all I'm seeing is all that we are, all that we are. You can only have the influence when you've done the homework, knowing your value.
Yes.
You can only have the influence when you know your
At that
value.
level, at that 100%. Yeah, at
if
that level.
if if you don't know your value, the world say I'm going to bring it down to social media influencers, right, somebody put something out there, da, 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 da. You know what, looking from the business standpoint, they were giving value to their followers.
Mhm.
They were giving value. We don't, some people don't value it, so they have the niche. So once we can do our homework, we can then be resolute. That's the word. We can be
Mm,
resolute to say, no, I don't want to do that. Oh, this job is available. No, I don't. I know who I am. And I'll tell you this, eavesdroppers, finances is good and dandy, but I tell you, there's as Traci said, success and fulfillment. When when you have that fulfillment, somehow it fills you up. Even though there are people behind you, your family waiting for, the kids are waiting for food and education and all that, all the needs. Give it time. Just give it time. I pray the wife, eavesdroppers, and the kids understand. Give it time. I think passion then arises out of those things that then pushes you into another sphere that makes you marketable and have the influence with finances coming in.
Mm. I'll say the same thing for women because I work with plenty of women who are the bread earners and they're,
Correct.
like, I mean, it could be your wife or your husband and your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
I believe that we fall into these buckets of bread earner and the expected responsibilities that
Agree.
comes with that. And I'm not saying don't be responsible. What I'm saying is choose your responsibilities in an aligned fashion. That's what you're
Mm,
saying, is what I'm hearing you say
mm,
as well. Is
mm,
be responsible and be aligned,
mm,
right? You don't have to sacrifice yourself for your role.
mm.
Don't be a martyr, because what's interesting too is with Bob Marley, and I think as we look back on Kobe Bryant's life too, I mean, his death was relatively recent. But when we look back, it's interesting how both these men, in a short period of time, because Bob Marley died young,
Yes.
that they lived an entire lifetime in a short. And when we say lifetime, like the
Yes.
extended lifetime, like I forgot that he passed away so soon.
36,
Because
I
when I
believe.
think of Bob Marley and his influence, it just seems like he must have lived for years and years to have that kind of impact.
Yes. Yes.
That's
That
what
body of work.
in that concentrated, when you talk about
Mm,
that. And, not always. I mean, there's some really impactful people who thankfully, Mother Teresa's one, live a long time.
long. Correct.
Um, but others, I think part of, the lore of their influence is because they did live a concentrated life. I mean, even
Hmm.
when it comes to the span of their life was concentrated, and they did so much. But you would have to come in with almost that razor sharp ability to know thyself
Ooh.
in order to make that kind of impact in that short period of time.
So is it do you think do I feel like I'm on the other side? Do you think it's just a few who come in knowing who they are? I mean, they come out knowing. Now, oh,
We all
okay.
do. We all come out knowing. It's just most of us
Uh-huh.
get conditioned out of it. We forget.
Ooh,
This is my
ooh.
belief. I believe we all come in knowing exactly who we are. That's why kids are so, like, what somebody in my family would say about me at all ages and stages
Hmm.
is confidence. She
Mm,
was always so confident. You're always so confident. I get
mm,
that all the time. Like, your confidence is something
mm,
that I really love.
mm,
You know,
mm.
and I really haven't struggled with confidence at point. I mean, not to say that there's times I haven't questioned myself in life,
Uh-huh.
and not the times that I haven't been nervous or been like, oh, I don't know, is that something? But I think it's more, is that what I want to do, as opposed to, is that what I can do? I
Mm,
never really questioned that I can do things.
mm.
And where I've held back is when I spend too much time focusing what I think
Think.
other people want from me instead of what I'm here to deliver.
Ooh, wow.
But,
Wow.
so I think that level of, that's what's allowed me in a lot of ways to keep who I am, even in times where I've had loved ones who wanted me to change, people who were very influential in my life who wanted me to be a different way, that I was, not being the way they expected me to be or wanted me to be. And I was able to hold the course to my true self, even if I
Correct.
had to turn away from those relationships or let them down in some way.
Mm.
It took confidence.
Wow. You
Yeah.
know, I normally I kept your comment up there. We all know some manifest mode. This is us, being born with it, right? And some manifesting more
That's the alignment piece. You manifest when you're in
Mm.
alignment. The only reason things aren't fluid is when we're out of our lane of alignment, right? So
Mm.
when we're in alignment, everything flows. Like chiropractically, let's talk. You know, when you're in alignment, all your fluids are flowing, everything's flowing perfectly. When you're
Mhm.
not, so if you come in with a particular design, you know, to meet particular, you know, to have a particular impact in the world, and you're aligned with that, you're manifesting like this.
So
Man,
so
you know,
so
when you're
we
not, that's when you're blocked.
and I'll say this to us, eavesdroppers. Each of us have a different print. You know, the iris completely different. Our speech, nobody can mimic. You know, your speech is your speech. Uh, and until we understand, until I pray parents truly build this, and then I pray children are placed in environments where it's championed. I pray that when we do find out at whatever time, it's never too late to start to nurture the confidence of these individuals. Another person that came to mind, Tiger Woods, the Williams sisters, right? I'm thinking now, I'm thinking it now. These are individuals. And here's what I would say. I would, LeBron James, I know I'm into sports. I know there are business individuals, you know, Steve Jobs, Bezos, the Dell CEO, who, you know, even Bill Gates saying, I mean, Harvard, and I know what I want to do. I'm going to go in my garage and build it, right? When we can have a support system, and we in fact we create the support system for young girls, for young boys, to say, look, you can change the world. And I would say something very you can change the world without going to school. And I will explain that. I will explain that. When
You
I
can
say
actually
without
change the
going,
world best if you don't go to school.
yeah, true, true, you know,
Not
but
to say you
here's
don't need schooling, but yeah.
correct, correct. But here's the thing, Tracy. Here's where in certain environments they cannot hear you until they see the paper. The paper meaning the diploma,
Yeah,
meaning
those are our current
the
systems.
certificate, right? In this particular system. You're not, I saw this young man in Liberia, Tracy. I hope I had the video, didn't know we are going to be talking about this. But he made a front end loader in a truck. He had a truck on the side and a front end loader, and he used water in syringes to make the arm go down, pick up, turn, press another syringe, open it, put it down. How did you do it? He said, well, God, I just woke up and God just showed me the plan on everything. This particular guy, this son, this man, this young boy, all he has mechanical engineering that at a level that you don't even can't even
How would
dream
he
about.
have it? He wouldn't have even been at that level in schooling. Yeah.
He never, but using, and then he says, there's no need for oil. I just did this with water and pressure. Water and pressure. I said, son, Caterpillar's gonna put you out of business. I dare you open your mouth around anybody when Caterpillar sees you to be like, no, take him off. But this is where innovation starts. Now, how innovation starts with him, grown-ups, we're hearing this thing. We're supposed to go around him now and start giving him the assistance. Say, look, this, you have a gift. We're gonna support it. But I'm pretty sure people are gonna pass and say, little boy, be sitting over there. You keep playing with your syringes, you will never eat. And a couple of years from now, he will have that sitting on his shelf and say, I built that. I used to know how to do that. Yeah. And that's all. And he's going to be something completely different where he has the answer for something in this world. Hmm. I
Well,
was amazed at him, man. I was so amazed at the beautiful mind that he has to create, to make it go left, to make it right, to make the arm just using pressure at different. And he would stop, use syringe number one, go to syringe number two, use three and four. I'm looking at the kid like, there are
so
many of these individuals outside in this world, Tracy, who just need And they don't need $1 million. They just need support. Go ahead, Traci.
All of us. I mean, going back to, I think we come in knowing ourselves. You know, my mom used to, and I would love to find this book. Is she, especially my brother, but she says both of us, because, and I know this from working with children. You know, some of the most profound things have come out of children's mouths,
Hmm.
you know, because they don't have the influence, you know, of the norms, right? They haven't been in the world long enough to be that heavily influenced. So they still speak authentically, right? They still speak from that genius. Because again, what we're really doing when we come up with brilliant ideas, or you know, God speaks to us, is we're pulling from the quantum field. It's all there.
Mm,
You know, that's what
mm,
Einstein did. I mean,
mm,
geniuses have decided they're going to open themselves up to what's already there, available to all of us. It's just most of us have shut down because of our conditioning, and other people stay open. So little kids are automatically open. And but some of the things my brother used to say were so profound,
mhm.
and my mom would write them down. And there's a book somewhere. We need to find it. It
Wow.
was some of the things that my brother used to say. And I think that that's just it. So we have little philosophers, little engineers, little, you know, I mean, this is what their brains were wired to tap into, and they
Yeah.
don't need school for it. They do need school to give them structure and, like you said, support. And but that's not what our systems are built for. Our systems are built to strip us down
Mm,
and rebuild us the way the system wants us to be,
mm, mm,
not the way we were designed to be naturally.
mm, mm,
Right. And I think that that's, I mean, that was the number one. I think I've shared this before here. When I worked at Butner, the number one thing I heard from the inmates who I worked with, when I asked the question, what you know, this highly successful role that you developed, you know, that you were in before you got incarcerated, was that what you wanted? Did you see yourself as a child in that role, in that space?
mm,
Every single one of them said, not only did I not see it, I wanted to be something almost opposite.
mm,
But my parents told me I needed to get a real job, or I needed, we're all doctors in my family, or something akin to the world or the system telling you who you're going to be, as opposed to you following your heart and your
mm,
design and who you're supposed to be, who you were built to be.
mm.
Um, and so it's that idea of, then what does it do to us when we live somebody else's design?
Oof.
And these guys, it's like, wow, maybe that has something to do with why we were acting out of integrity. Because when you're not living in the integrity of your truth, then you're going to act out of integrity by definition. And
Mm,
that version of integrity or lack of it is going to factor into all of your decision making in conscious
mm,
and unconscious ways.
mm,
So when you
mm.
find you've gone astray and you're like, how did that happen? It's because I'm not living authentically. You know, it's, you know, a lot of times y'all hear this when people are just like, oh my God, I'm in such a funk. I'm just eating horribly.
Mhm.
I'm like, well, if you feel like poop, you're going to eat like poop. Yeah, I'm going to use a nice word. But like,
Yeah.
if you feel, I mean, there's this thing called, you know, equal and up, you know, equal attracts equal. So like when you're
Mhm.
feeling a certain way, you're going to act a certain way.
Yeah.
And when you act a certain way, you're going to produce certain outcomes.
Yeah.
And so it's that intentionality that says, it's not that to say that we can't fall off the wagon and we can't have down times, but to use it as an opportunity, a launch pad, if you were. Like,
Mm.
I always think of when I'm going through a down spot as something I'm purging.
Gotcha.
And I want to
Gotcha.
sit with that experience as a data point,
Mm.
right? What am I learning? What is it telling me? Where is it taking me? Mm, what is it developing within me?
Mm.
You know, as opposed to, how could I just live from this space and create more? You know, if I'm in chaos, we don't want to create more chaos, but it doesn't mean that we want to pretend like we're not in chaos either.
Mm.
Right. So
Mm.
if I'm legitimately in chaos, which, you know, we've had a little bit of that, as you know, in our lives here,
Yep. Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
when things just kept happening that were just so shocking, how do you reach equilibrium? Well, it isn't just to create normalcy. You know, it's not to
Mm.
just try to go the other direction and get fearful and cling to things and be afraid to go out in the world and force stability.
Yeah.
It's to say there's a reason for this. I
Yeah.
may not know it, I may not like it, but how can I be with it? How can I
Mm,
trust? How can I let it inform me?
mm.
And
Wow.
also keep that higher vibrational, kind of, I don't know, trajectory, of where I want to go. Like,
Mm.
not get too in the dumps because everything is just blowing apart.
Wow.
Right. And
Wow.
being grateful for what
Yeah.
isn't blowing apart.
Yeah.
It's always important.
Yeah. You when you were saying you feel like pooping, just imagine garbage in, garbage out, right? Where you give the computer something stupid, it's gonna send something stupid right back out to you. Be like, I
Yeah.
don't know what I do. And I saw the picture of you, talking, not you when you were speaking. I got the picture of where you say your downtimes are where we regroup, and
Mm.
I can see that some of our downtimes are moping, and yeah, you can cry there. You can
Should if you
heal
need to.
heal your wounds. You can get healed there. But then I think Normani had said it earlier: is knowing your plan. Knowing what your plan is. Uh, so Boston Celtics wins. Oh, I have a lot of basketball today. Boston Celtics wins the NBA championship, and the MVP is, I think, is Jalen Brown. If you look at Jalen Brown 2 years ago to what he is today, completely different individual.
Mm.
2 years ago, I believe he got a $300 million contract, $300+ million contract, and he sucked. He didn't have a good left hand even at that level in the pro game. Because of that left hand, he had so many turnovers in the last finals that they were in. He takes that, he mopes for a bit, but then he works on it. He works on it. He works on it. The guy comes back. He's supposed to be number two on the team. He is number one. They gave him the MVP for finals. They gave him the MVP for I think playoffs. I believe. He takes it from this other individual, Jason Tatum, who was the owner of the team. But what I'm saying is, he he could have kept crying and moping and not worked. And then he says yesterday, I went in the gym and I stayed in the gym. I stayed in the gym, and you can see the difference, the trajectory of what happened with him over the summer. And I told my son, watch, he's not stopping there. Now he's hungry. He's going to go to another level and another level and another level, and he will become the face of that team. But
Mm.
here's our point. Let's bring it down to us. uh, Wherever our value, where we know we're intentional, and we have this gift to give to the world,
Mhm.
it will sit dormant. It will do nada. It will do nothing for you until you start to study it, until you start to nurture it, until you start to make mistakes with it. I tell you that I have a gift, Tracy. It comes and I perform it, right? There are times when I'm performing it, when I'm moved to do it, I'm second guessing it. I go,
Mm.
but how in the world am I going to hone that if I don't
Okay.
exercise it?
Yeah.
So my wife Verlin sent me this quote yesterday. This was something a cousin of ours, or I don't know who did it, but it says, "We fear failing so much that we don't realize that we are already failing by not starting."
Mm. That's
And
a
when
good.
I saw that, I go, wow, you're already failing because you fear starting. So, eavesdroppers, let's start knowing our value. Let's start failing forward. That's what they say. Let's not, those boundaries that are around us that says a woman has to wait for a husband. That's Tracy. That stuff still is saying my mind is just, I'm fighting it. Wait
Mm.
for her husband for a credit card. For wait for voting. The civil rights, right? Where slavery, just everything where man wants to come on top. You may be a pioneer. You may get killed doing it, but trust and believe. You will be remembered, or you will change the trajectory, and you will become what God has made you to become, and change this world in whatever way you're supposed to change it. So
Hmm.
please, 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 please don't fear failing, that you don't realize that you're already failing by not starting.
So what I hear is a core belief of mine,
Mm,
which that's such a great quote. I know I've heard that before,
okay.
because we think in terms of failure because we're raised to be human doings, not human beings, right? So
Mhm.
failure is we either did or did not. If it's failure, we didn't do what we wanted to do. It's we're afraid of being who we came to be,
Mm,
and we're waiting to be. Right? At all times, I see people just waiting to be, just waiting. As soon as I get out of this house, then I can be, I'll be away from my parents and I can be the person I want to be. Or as soon as I get out of school, then I can be like, we're waiting to be all the time. I was
wow.
thinking about this earlier. There's a relationship that I've had for a really long time, and it has its challenges in our lives, and I realized that I was waiting, kind of. There's a part of me that was waiting for that person to kind of want to have a conversation to come together and make it better. And then I thought, I don't need to wait for that person to come around. This person may or may not ever come around.
Mhm.
I can love them in my heart. I can be in that place that I'm with them,
Mm,
who they are to me, and I can be that, and it reminded me of the Giving Tree, which I've had a love-hate relationship with my whole life, and I understand why. It's because the Giving Tree is a book about
mhm.
unconditional love. It is about being. If you love a person, just love them. It doesn't matter what they're doing.
Mm, mm,
I think we think of it as attachment. We think of it as we have to be in relationship, which means we have to be together in the same place, or we have to be a certain way to
mm.
constitute friendship, or whatever it is. Like we
Wow.
have these conceptual understandings of how that needs to be. And if it's not that, then we're waiting for it to be that. Instead of just saying, if I love
Mm,
this person, let me just love them. Let me just send them good vibes. Let me just hold them in a good place in my heart, even if I never see them again.
mm,
I get to be however I want to be in that relationship in my own heart. Why am I waiting for this to like somehow become something different? It gets to be whatever I want it to be. And that was I've thought this way before, but it just kind of landed differently um, the other day. And I think that that's what I'm hearing too, is that stop waiting to be who
mm,
you want to be right now. If you want to be loving, even though that person sneered at you, be loving. You want to laugh and be jokey, even that person's all laugh and be jokey. Like be who you want to be, because that's what the world needs.
woo. Now, this is where we're supposed to stop and say, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for C's coming for EP10, but we have roughly 2 more minutes. So, wow, let be what you're supposed to be in the environment, regardless of what the environment is, regardless of, wow, stop
Let
waiting.
other people be
It's
too.
profound, highly profound, that stop waiting to be, I've heard it said in another way. They saved for retirement. They
Mm,
saved all the money for retirement, didn't go on vacation. They saved every penny. During retirement, they got sick and were in the hospital. Whereas they could have gone on their various trips, created those memories with their family members. I heard this one. The guys, he smoked. The wife always stop, stop, stop. Hey, Normani, thanks. Really great show today. Insightful discussion. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for being here, man. And continue, guys. Another minute or so. Don't run. um, he smoked. She said, "Quit smoking, quit smoking, quit smoking." Now she's about to retire. He has an oxygen pack. He cannot walk from the bed to the bathroom without standing for 10, 15 minutes. And now she wants to go on vacations. She's highly resentful of him that he's holding her back.
don't wait.
Eavesdroppers, let's
Don't wait.
let's
Don't let
let's
other people
not
hold you back.
stop waiting. Stop waiting to be, because exactly what you said, Tracy. Take us home, Traci. You got about what, 30 seconds.
So I will make a connection between Bob Marley and Kobe Bryant, and in what we just were talking about is that's why they're so impactful, is because they at every moment during their short lives were being right. They were choosing to be who they wanted to be, and that's why their impact is so potent, right? It's so concentrated. And that's why we feel it that way, because like you said, when people know who they are, it's like when they're being who they are. They just, they know it and they're being it. That's what we call embodiment leadership, right? When you're being that version of what you want to see in the world. Instead of waiting for your people to do it, or somebody else to do it, or like God, or the president of the United States to do it, or like we're always like, God, they just need to be this. Well, why don't you be that? Stop worrying about, I just want this person to be more this way. Well, then be more of that yourself, and you'll put more into the world. Maybe you'll influence them to be that way. But sitting here thinking and wanting them, we spend so much time focusing on other people, and we forget that the only power we have is to be that ourselves, or not.
Woo. I could go on with this. Hey, Traci, another great one. Thank you so much. Normani, thanks for being here. There are a couple other people who came in and were quiet. We thank you also. People on replay, thank you. Leave us comments. This has been season 5, EP10 on this Juneteenth day. Have a blessed one, Traci. Normani,
Thanks, same to you, Wulwyn. Thanks,
take
everyone.
care. Bye-bye.